On to attacking third, we have the all special, the all cap recap. And I'm here to be your director of vibes, Christine Cupo. But I am here with McCall Zerboni and the legend, Saskia Webber. We are going to dice up this US v China match, the best of our ability, and maybe jump into a few little records. Like, McCall, you're no longer the oldest first time capper. Now you're just a regular young whippersnapper who happened to play. Lola Bonta has taken your crown. What do you have to say
take
for
it,
yourself?
run with it. All it was is like my name and old next to it. So
I'm like, I told you guys, I retired at 32. I wasn't waiting for a call up at 32.
Okay. So you're saying there's still a chance, Saskia?
I think so. At this point, there's no number one, right? So
listen, Emma Hayes, if you're not busy, you might want to just flip the Rolodex. I can get you in with Saskia, I promise. It's great to have you on the show today, Saskia.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Well, let's start from the top, right? So the U.S. women have just played their first friendly in this camp against China, 17th ranked. They haven't beaten the U.S. since 2015. They've had an abysmal set of years, and we'll call them a team in flux and largely rebuilding under Ante Milic. Or at least I'll say I won't use the royal we yet. I expected China to come out really defensively, sitting in a low block, really tight and compact, and not necessarily showing any teeth. I think what we ended up getting, at least in the start of this game, was a little less fearful China. They were coming out. We know that Milic wants them to be playing more possession-based ball, a little more baiting, trying to get you into an offside trap as the U.S. builds out. What did you guys see?
Well, I feel like from the get, I think it surprised all of us in that high press, and they almost caught us right in the beginning. So they almost caught the U.S. from the get of the game, putting Phallon Tullis-Joyce into a tough situation. But then they backed off because they started to get exposed. And I thought going into it, you're saying, okay, this is going to work. We're going to high press. We're going to get a goal. Then maybe we'll tuck back and we'll sit in a low block. That never came, but they also never changed really enough of their lineup or their setup to make it any better. And they started to get exposed the rest of the game.
In all respect to China, they didn't take that inferior posture, going 5 in the back, playing like a 5-4-1 or something, you know. And respectfully, they're still 2 years out, so maybe they're still trying to work into a normal position that they want to take, coming in a couple years. But if you're going to play a high line, you have to have one of two things, and ideally both. You have to have an intense high press that chokes the opposition into making mistakes higher up the pitch, reducing the risk of wiggling out of it and gaining ground into your defensive third. Or you have to have an insanely fast back line. So if those balls do get popped over the top, that they can recover and they can catch. They don't have neither. So for me, it was a lot of question marks why China just continued to play that high line and giving us all the space in behind.
And I thought, but I do think what they did do good to shut down that midfield in the first half. So we had to figure that out. The U.S. had to kind of work around that and solve some issues that it took a little bit for the U.S. to solve. Once the goals started coming, you could see they figured it out. But that shutdown of the midfield, Jonas not getting on the ball, Heaps not getting on the ball, looked promising for China.
Okay, but wasn't that strange? I would have liked to see Lily higher up the pitch than Heaps. And for whatever reason, they were playing the opposite in the first half. Lily was lower and Heaps was higher, which I think one of Lily's strengths is playing those through balls,
absolutely,
especially with a high line, putting those thread balls in between to our fast strikers. That's not really Heaps anymore. She can do that, small, tight work in the midfield as like an 8 link player. So I would have liked to see them flipped.
I agree. I think Jonas is more effective in that 10 high, serving those balls in, those through balls, isolating Thompson in the corner, and she wasn't there for that.
You know what? Let's flip real quick. We'll take a look at how the U.S. actually lined up for anybody that hasn't been following along. I think producer Mark is going to supply us with that starting 11 so we can take a better look at how exactly this all panned out. So to your point, McCall, I think that with Heaps specifically, I think that some of the ways that she's been asked to play with Lyon this season kind of facilitated her sitting up a little bit higher than we're used to seeing her. And I think that could have created that little bit of, I don't want to say disjointedness, but it kind of was, because she looked like she was either too high up or a half step behind in between with the way that Lily was kind of trying to interact. And Lily is just a feisty teenager. Okay. Like you see her calling for the ball aggressively, running through those two center backs early on, like trying to make things happen. Um, I guess through that first half, who was the player that really stood out to you?
I think for me, Carolina Macario. Like I think that she worked that flank when it needed to be. There were times that China just condensed the field laterally so much and clogged that space. And when she got open, when she got isolated, she just caused so many things to happen. Obviously, she got the goal, she got the assist in the first half, but she was so spot on in her positioning and attacking those flanks and making things happen. So for me, definitely first half until she got subbed, she was player of the match.
Yeah, I think she was able to show her high soccer IQ today. She recognized very soon in the match exactly what China was giving. And as soon as a midfielder got the ball and was faced up, she did so perfectly of fading her run 3 steps wide, you'll stay on side. She just faded her run a little bit, running off the back shoulder. That ball was played through to her. And every single time she was in on goal, like facing up. So that to me is a high level, high IQ player, whether you don't have the pace or you do. She knows how to execute her skill that she has in her locker against a team like China playing a high line that was completely out of sorts.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this top line? I know that we have talked a bit about everybody's having this sort of knee jerk reaction to no more triple espresso, but I think Alyssa Thompson has caught fire. Kat Macario is coming back into form from her injury, and we've seen her sort of start to grow week over week with Chelsea. And McCall Cooper is absolutely outstanding for a player who has such limited caps under her belt. Like, what do you take away? Like, do you think that this is the perfect path forward? Obviously, we still have players like an Ali Sentnor who has created an instant impact in the opportunity she's been given. But do we think that this is sort of shaping up to be now the A team top line? Or where do you see players like Biondolo fitting in?
I mean, my thing about Alyssa Thompson, Coop, love her, so good, need her. She's our starter. Want to see her go end line more. She's constantly cutting in too early at the top of the box to always look for that shot. But if she can add that layer to her game where she's driving to the end line and cutting it back and using her left foot, that variability will just keep the defenders guessing where it's like, is she going to beat me on the left or is she going to beat me on the right? And people are trying to understand her strengths. So all she wants to do is cut back onto her right foot.
And I think that comes from the way she's asked to play at Angel City.
For sure. You know,
she's looked at to cut back in, either take on 1v1, get isolated, go to goal, make things happen there. And so this is a different look for her. And so she has to have that in her toolbox as well. I thought Cooper did her job exceptional. She kept the width on that right side. She caused her services tonight were spot on. They were just a dart. But instead of cutting inside, she kept her game as I'm going to keep my width. I'm going to send my crosses in. And she made things happen.
She really is a little magician, not to mention the defensive work that she's willing to do. She really is tireless. I love that she's also got that kind of like she'll knuckle up for you. Let's put it that way. You need to have a player that's willing to go in on those tackles, but also has that finesse of like breaking through those gaps of a back line. And she does. I think that she's very complete for how young she is and just breaking into this U.S. women's national team. I can't wait to see where she goes. I think that speaking of that same flank, the chemistry, I think, working from that back, especially knowing how we do like to use those kind of like wing back defenders on the outsides. Seeing Patterson slot in tonight over Foxy, who's recovering from an extended season as a Champions League winner.
I thought Patterson was a good fit to slide into there because she is playing so well for Houston. She just came off of a great game against Bay with Houston, had that banger, right, of a goal where she ran the flank, cut inside, nobody picked her up, and she just laced it into far upper 90. She gives you that advantage as a true attacking outside back.
Patterson looked really sharp. She was very quick in her movements on the ball and also her decision-making. And McCall Cooper, now that I'm realizing she's a striker who plays like a defender. Honestly, you got the ball, she'll go in and crush you. I love that about her. And it's not just her actual tackles, but her positioning when the back line does have the ball, she knows how to force into bad decisions and bad angles, which is so helpful when you're the next line behind her as a midfielder. When she's making it predictable for you, that's what you want from your front line. They might not win the ball, but they're funneling into an area where you're like, okay, I know where this is going next. I can anticipate and intercept.
I actually would have liked to see Dunn and Patterson get more involved, to be honest with you. I thought they held a little bit on those flanks. They weren't as involved. They didn't create the overloads as much as they could have and expose those weak sides as much as I would have expected them to.
Do you think that, I mean, I would think that there would be more freedom in those flanks, given that you do have Gurma back in the lineup for the first time in 2025, besides Sonnet. And I feel like they are rock solid, like trust in them above all else. And then sitting ahead of them is Sam Coffey, who will always do tireless work. And now she's also doing goals and flipping palms up at him. I love her so much. Just adding a little bit of flair. How do you think that back line, is that optimal? Is that how they want to move forward? Is this the best defensive back line that you can have if you put Foxy back in? And is Patterson then her number 2?
Well, that's exactly it. I think Fox is back in there. It's still her spot, even though she didn't show it all today. She is definitely the solid rock back there. But what I love about Patterson is trying her on the right, and she succeeded today. So now she's even more of a weapon for us, and definitely coming to the tournament for us, because if she can play on the left and the right, God bless America. We need you, girlie. Get in there.
Clip that.
No, I agree. I think you settle back into this back line with Fox, and we will talk about the goalkeeper.
Absolutely. Yeah, we do need to talk quite in depth about Phallon Tullis-Joyce, okay? The 28-year-old co-Golden Glove winner with Hannah Hampton this WSL season for Manchester United, and also Man United's Players Player Award, if I'm saying that right. That's kind of like Club World Cup. Players Player for this season. She has been an absolute standout. We haven't had this definitive, oh, that's the heir apparent for this U.S. goalkeeper aura, I'd say. But I feel like it's becoming increasingly clear that
I love that McCall's look.
Yeah, Phallon Tullis-Joyce.
I can't wait to hear you heat up on this.
Emma seems to be quite favoring Phallon Tullis-Joyce now. Granted, so few caps, with the caveat being that we know that Emma Hayes wants her to be able to play out the back.
Right.
So what do you think, and how adaptable, and I ask keepers this often because never was a keeper, how big of an ask is that for a keeper that isn't necessarily super comfortable at their feet with being able to play out the back and sort of being this like sweeper keeper in essence?
Well, I mean, we saw her get into some trouble tonight on that very first pass back and everything. She ended up cleaning it up, but yes, struggling tonight with her feet, but that you could see kind of the nerves in her. Here's my take on this. Honestly, they have to settle on a number 1. And we're sitting here talking about the back line. Is this the back line we go with, right? Is this add Foxy back in? Well, if you want, it's actually a 5 back. If you want and are saying that your goalkeepers are part of the build now and everything, well, then you have to look to settle in to that 5th player, right? Because they have to get in sync with your back line. And gone are the days where that's the place you're playing. You know, you're coming back from where for Phallon, where things are different. She's used to playing with that line in front of her. It was obvious that there was some miscommunication back there. There was some jitters back there. And now it's time to settle on your number 1. I call it a number 1, a 1B, a 1C, not a 2. That's just my saying, right? But, you know, Mandy McGlynn, out of all 3 goalkeepers, has the best feet, right? Is the best with her distribution. I saw a great service tonight from Phallon in the second half. Left-footed wide. That's more of what she has to be able to bypass lines.
Her ability or her choices with the ball at her feet?
Her choices as well. And I have that written down too. I think her choices are suspect at times as well. Now, the only way you're going to get that out is to let her play and understand the people she's playing with. You can't just, she has to know how Coffee moves. She has to know what to expect from Fox, from Dunn, their positioning, from Heaps, from Jonas. She has to know when to bypass lines. And the only way you get better at that is to play with that group. And so just to keep switching up your goalkeepers, that time has to be over now. They have to settle in on a number 1.
Speaking of settling in on number one, we need to take our very first break, but keep your boots laced. We will be right back in a minute. And we are back. I promised and I delivered, right?
Oh, it's the Sam coffee.
Saskia's quick. I see. This is why you got to keep a keeper with you. Okay, they're sharp. They're sharp. They're sharp. And I want to run right back to this keeper conversation, Saskia, because you made your debut against Norway with the U.S. at 21. Phallon Tullis-Joyce is just getting her first fewer than handful caps at 28 and trying to come into her own. What are some of the challenges that you have experienced or that you foresee having coming into a new side where, again, you're trying to form this chemistry with a team that you're largely not around every day?
I think the positives are that Phallon brings in a wealth of knowledge and experience coming in, although she has jumped around and everything, settling in with Man United. But you need that as a goalkeeper. It's why they always say goalkeepers get better with age, right? You end up reading the game well, reading the through balls. Like, we look at it as goalkeepers as you guys are our chess pieces in front of us, and how am I going to move you around to make no save at all or the easiest save possible? But that comes with experience and age. Now, wipe that and say there is nothing like playing for the United States, and nerves are through the roof. No matter if you're on the biggest stage for Man United, doesn't matter. There is nothing like the pressure playing for wearing this crest. And I think that showed a little bit tonight. McCall, I think it showed a little bit tonight. But again, like I said, the more she gets time and the more she plays, those nerves will go away. Hardest thing about being a U.S. goalkeeper is this: you can go a whole game and no saves, and you have one goal against. And you don't want your goalkeepers, if you keep changing them out, constantly playing with fear. And you'll be like, why would Phallon play with fear? Well, because you're so worried about making a mistake that you're not going to start the next game. If you keep hanging this thing over their head that there is no number one, there is no number one. And goalkeepers, they think that way. I'm going to let you know. I know you think we're crazy, but they think that way. They're like, oh my God.
You are crazy, but we love you.
I guarantee you Phallon is thinking about that back pass in the first 2 minutes of the game. I guarantee you.
What's happened to her in the last month or two? She played one good match, and now America is like, "You're our girl. You're in." It's like zoom down. You know, so she was walking into this match. She was just like, "Okay, everyone is expecting me to be it. I've got to be it."
I think it's so hard to have such a comprehensive club performance and not have everyone's expectations rise around you like that. I think, though, Saskia, how do you overcome that? How did you overstep that, where you stop feeling like you're on this very dicey interview and it becomes you being comfortable knowing that you've got this and this is my job now?
I don't think I ever got past that with the national team, even though I played with the team for 10 years. I think you always have that in the back of your head, but you have to start remembering that you're allowed to make mistakes. And we tell goalkeepers that all the time. Grow from your mistakes. Don't follow one by the other. And, you know, she cleaned it up. Don't follow. If it would have rolled downhill in a sense, and if she would have gone bad distribution, now trying to force another distribution, bad decision making, then you would have said, okay, she's not clearing her mind. So you got to clear your mind from it, move on. I guarantee you after the game, she's thinking about it, but you have to just grow from it. You have to look at your film. You have to sit back and you say, okay, what do I do in this situation? What were my choices here? She made some bad distribution choices tonight, but now go to the board and figure out how to make better ones.
I think the hardest part is demonstrating that you've learned from running tape, right? It's like, how do you best and fastest do that?
And give her the chance.
Right. And like, chances are not given, right? Like, you have to earn them. So with I'd say the hunger, the youth, the pool, there are a number of keepers that we've cycled through. I think even under Emma Hayes in more recent time, we had Jane Campbell, right? Like Kaylin Sheridan, like there's a number of players that they've looked at and turned her head, but they haven't necessarily found themselves in the position of hey, it's do or die. Like, can you do this? Do you have any, and I know we all agree that this has to happen now, but do you have any faith in particular in this pool and any of the players in Phallon that you'd say like, hey, she's ready, like let her run?
I do have faith. I have faith in this pool. I think what you're also seeing when you brought up Jane Campbell, when you bring up Casey Murphy, is seeing some players, some goalkeepers that we thought might be the new heir apparents are dropping off. And we're seeing that in the NWSL where Campbell's sitting behind Smith now. Casey Murphy's been having a hard couple games. And when I say a hard couple games, I don't mean the goal. I mean, decision-making wise, we're seeing decisions that aren't world-class decisions.
But is that all confidence, right? Because if you're in two minds all the time, you're going to make mistakes.
You are, but remember what I said about following one mistake up by another. And I think what we're seeing is in some of these keepers that we thought were heir apparents are the same mistake continuous. So they're not growing. And so you have to move on for those keepers that you're saying you're playing every week, but you're not growing a little bit. You know you're making mistakes. You know your position.
Well, no wonder how Phallon has stress. Think about what you're saying.
I have stress now listening to this.
No, but that's a difference between playing every week, like a Murphy and stuff. Campbell, all hands beat. She's the only reason Houston was even a conversation last season. Like she kept Houston in every single game. She's hit a little bit of a rut. I'm sure she might come back from it. But I think when it comes to only playing a couple games for a team a season, well, then you have to let her get used to playing with the back line and see where she can grow from it. So it's kind of like a little bit different. If she was making all the mistakes with Man U and not growing from them, then she'd probably sit for Man U.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, Saskia, I have to thank you. Like you laid so much land for us. I'm watching this game, Lily and all these young players balling out. And I'm like, what is age anymore? Because these players have had for 12 years now, had access and a pipeline of development and investment and opportunity at such a young age, right? If you think about it, okay, Lily's 17 years old. At 5 years old, there was an NWSL, there was a league. So she already had that direct pipeline and developmental system. And what's so fascinating and wonderful about it is that we're still very young. And this just says to me that women will surpass men because we're already this good and we're still so early in our development. We're only 12 years old and we're already seeing these youngsters ball out on main global stages. So it's really neat to see the pipeline that you have laid with your 99ers and how the game has taken that and ran with that. And now we get to watch the beauty of it. So thank you.
Oh, well, you're a part of it too, and don't ever step back from that. But I think one of the biggest things that I see is what Emma Hayes is doing, and it was talked about during the game, but the importance of the U23, that was never important when I was playing. It was like U23s was basically the national team minus Michelle Akers, right? Because of age, but now it's another pipeline, and there's a connection with that with the senior team, as there should be. So there's a place for the Tiernans who, let's go Rutgers, who I have to give a shout out to, but there's a place for them to know that they're getting games and they have connections and they can move up. And the Jonases and I couldn't imagine it. I mean, at 17, I was in national team camp, that's what, but I wasn't the pro player I became. And it took for me back then, the only place to play was college. So it took going through college. Like you said, my first cap wasn't until I was 21, but yes, you've laid the ground as well, McCall. So, I mean, I see that 200 appearance.
Right. I'm like,
you.
for anybody that's listening via the pod, I have both Saskia and McCall with their full trophy cabinets behind them, being ever so humble. Well, I have literally a Sports Illustrated from the 99ers behind my head. So I know where we came from. I do want to talk about where we're going though, and I want to talk about the goal scorers that we had today. Okay. Yes. Kat Macario opening goal scoring in the 28th minute, followed by Sam Coffey and then Lindsay Horan, who has been getting the job done. She's having the best season of her life for club this year, has eclipsed and became the goal scorer and top assists for Lyon. I think that I was probably most impressed with Kat and just some of the chances and the creation in this game. Goals for you guys, like who's hot? Who did you expect more from? Who did you see that you think is like, I know we're going to say Alyssa Thompson's great because she is, but who do you think is sort of becoming more of an attacking presence outside of those people that obviously get the accolades for being the boot at the end of the goal?
I mean, Lance Heaps, she's so lethal with her head and always has been.
Mm.
Like, imagine this. If she was a goalkeeper, if she's the person, if we were like down in the last 10 minutes, I'd be like, go get in the box on a corner. Like,
Absolutely.
she's just, if the ball comes to her head, she ain't missing. Her execution is incredible. And that's the kind of stuff in tournaments that will give you that edge that will win you games. But can I go with a sister? Because
Sure.
Michelle Cooper, her ability on crosses,
absolutely.
wow. Like, her decision making, whether it's a first time cross or a prep touch to serve it, or in the ground, in the air, the weight on the ball, she can put it on a dime. And to me, her crossing is the difference of her being 100%. The starting selection or not. That's it.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. And if we were wondering why Sentinor didn't start and stuff, and that was answered tonight by Cooper. And just like every single goal had something to do with Cooper.
Yeah.
So every service,
every single one, including the near miss that she had herself around the 43rd minute.
And so when you influence every single goal and every single play, you just put an exclamation point on the game. And you said, look at me. You can't deny me right now. You know, you don't always get looked at just because you score. I know that because I'm a goalkeeper, right? But I thought outstanding. And I thought she really just staked a claim for herself tonight.
Cooper is, I feel like, even with her spottiness, just in terms of fitness with Kansas City this season, still stood out, right? Like, she didn't have her regular chunk and blocks of minutes in more recent matches. Was wondering about her fitness. I no longer have a worry about her. I think that she honestly came in like a lion into the U.S., even her debut, and I feel like she hasn't let up. She's gained my trust thus far, and I feel like every single time that she's gotten minutes, she's been a topic of conversation, which says a lot for a player that's just coming into what I'd say a U.S. women's national team trying to figure out the path forward and longevity.
Okay, here we go. Train comes back. Who are you picking?
Oh,
whoa. Okay. I love Trinity Rodman is she's special. Okay. But I think I worry a lot about her ongoing and addressed back issue. I think that for what you can use her for, I don't think that it's reasonable at this point to expect that she's going to be able to pull a full shift. So I think that needing to manage her minutes so closely is probably the best advice that you can have. But like, how do you work that in where it's an optimal, fully functional top line where you don't see these sort of ebbs and flows based on small substitutions? So I feel like for a Trinity Rodman player, we're looking for more like for like versus a starter and a sub. It's got to be more interchangeable for me.
I also think Michelle Cooper just has more defensive tenacity. She's more willing to do the dirty work, and she understands her positioning to really make it for the easiers behind her. And I think Trin is just all like goal, me focused, you know?
Yeah. I mean, we've seen her pull up some like beautiful defense, like tackles, making those tracks back. But I do agree with you. I think that Michelle is more, I'd say, naturally inclined defensively. And she also, for me, again, personal preference with players is like, she's willing to be like the hard woman and go in and make these like really like snappy tackles fearlessly. And you need that.
Well, you also don't want to put, is the question moving forward with Rodman, do you want to put her into those situations because of her back? Like, is the focus on, I mean, you have to be a both sided of the ball player, but at the end of the day, it's like, listen, we don't want you to track back that much. We want you to stay higher, you know, let somebody else do the defensive work, because we do have to manage your minutes, and we do have this underlying issue, and we don't want to make it worse. Different players. I think Cooper knew her space tonight and like understood, hey, my position in this game right now, let Thompson crash, let Kat crash the goal. I'm going to hang out here and I'm just going to throw darts at them so I can set them up. And, you know, I think Rodman's more of like a Thompson, a Kat, like wants to get in, wants to run the goal. So it depends on what you're looking for in the game, really. So
we're goody without Triple Espresso or what?
Oh my gosh, I'm never gonna be allowed back on the show if I say that. Like, and 1 and out.
I threw you a softball there, Saskia.
I think this is a great problem for Emma to have. Let me put it that way.
Look at you all diplomatic. You're media trained. I see you.
You're hired.
I truly think that. I think it's a great problem for Emma to have. If you're saying, okay, I have triple espresso, I only have a latte right now, only one person's here, like whatever. Like I have these other weapons right now. I have Kat, I have Alyssa, I have Cooper. So it's a great problem.
Champagne, baby. That's it.
It's a great problem. It's
the advent of the next generation of greatness.
Yes.
We'll just roll the bumper. We got this. We are going to take another quick break here. Just, water break. You guys should hydrate too. We'll be right back in just a second. Welcome back. As promised, we're all hydrated now, right? Everybody grabbed their water bottle. Okay, great. Give the water, girls and boys, a raise. We are going to jump in right now with players of the match because that's very important, though I feel like we were kind of edging that way as we were closing off our last conversation. And then what we want to see from this US side coming up against Jamaica on Tuesday. Obviously, like this is going to be a fast and furious schedule for them this camp. Jamaica, obviously another team that's wildly in flux. China, who has a little bit more, I'd say, urgency in terms of getting their identity together because they do have Asian Cup next year, followed by World Cup. But let's start with our players of the match for this US China match.
Oh,
Go
you're
ahead,
going.
Sas.
Oh, we just lost Saskia's audio. Oh no.
All right, I'm gonna go.
Go ahead.
Y'all know how I feel about Michelle Cooper. She was a player of the match for me. And the facts on it is as soon as she came off the pitch, everything slowed down for the US. And so it lets you know exactly what she does for us on both sides of the ball and how much she creates going forward. Woman of the match for me, Michelle Cooper.
Yeah, I feel like I want to add some diversity. Otherwise, I would say Cooper 1,000%. I genuinely love her. Like, I'm like, I'll watch her all the time. Like, she's just an exciting player to watch too, like unassuming. Saskia, player of the match?
I'm going with Kat McCarter. And
okay.
Because I thought, again, as Cooper had something to do with every single play, so did Kat, in a sense. Even that first goal that Cooper sent in, Kat was the one that drew the defense away. It became a melee, but then to stay with it, tuck it in. But then that ball she laid off to Coffee off that cross was just one touch on a plate. So again, having something to say about pretty much every single goal. So I'm sticking with Kat on this one.
I appreciate that. It's next level elegance to lay it off, to know that they have to hit it first time. I think a lot of people will mess up the texture and the way of the ball on that. She laid it off right here. Hey, first time hit, find that corner, boom.
Yeah, it was excellent.
I think you both set me up perfectly to say Sam Coffey. Sam Coffey is just integral to the function of that midfield. She pulls so many strings and makes things go and also abruptly stop. But for her to pull up today and just eat what Kat fed her, get that goal,
Nice.
like, you gotta come on, Sam Coffey, let's go. Like, if she scored goals more often, I would probably lose my mind. But it's a lovely luxury to have from her dipping from the deeps and just getting up in that box. Remarkable work. Jamaica. I think. What do you think is the biggest challenge now going into Jamaica? And how much rotation do you think we're going to see? Obviously, there's players we didn't see at all today. We saw players that got subbed on with some scant minutes. Ali Sentnor, Lola Bonta, one of them. We also saw Liv. Like there were a few players that got some little nibble minutes, I'll call them. Do we think that what they showed today would be enough to push them to get a start or more of their handful of minutes in against Jamaica?
I will say I'm bummed for Carrie Bello. I wanted to see her get on, even if it's just for 5 minutes, get her feet wet, get used to that moment of, checking in and get that out of the way. Interested to see if Emma's the kind of coach that would just start her, even though she didn't play 1 minute last game. I think she could be a good insertion for a side against Jamaica. She's actually very strong and smart on the ball as well. So I want to see Carrie Abello get in there.
That's a good shout. I think that with the way that Emma Hayes can kind of be a wild card sometimes, where you can't predict what her starting 11 would be in any way, shape, or form, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, Carrie's a tireless defender. It would be nice to see how she could potentially fit in. Saskia, on your end?
I think it'll be interesting if Fox, I know she's got a tweak, if Fox gets some time or a start against Jamaica. I'm not sure a start. Maybe she'll go back to Patterson. I don't know if I think she will. I actually do think against Jamaica. I think you're in this for a short camp. You've brought players in that you want to see what they're going to do on the big stage. If you had more time, maybe I think we're going to see some subs. I think you're going to see an Ali Sentinel maybe get the nod. She came in late today. Maybe a Biandola. I don't know so much about the midfield. Maybe stick with the midfield, but we'll see some subs again. Maybe sooner too. I think maybe earlier in the game. It's going to be interesting to see what Jamaica does, simply because if they had in mind that they were going to go at the U.S., I think after seeing what China did, they're going to come out in a block and just rely on trying to catch the U.S. in transition.
Jamaica do tend to be very defensive to begin with. So I would put my green dollars on that. I think for me, we got to see a little bit of Lowe playing in there, but it felt like we know how she plays. It felt a little bit tentative, where she was kind of just trying to feel it out and see. So I think for me, I would like to see Lowe get more quality minutes. I think producer Mark actually has a clip of her reaction to getting subbed on. Can we run that, Mark?
Crowd really went wild when you came on the pitch. Is there a little bit of a blackout moment? Was that something that you were even able to be receptive of, or?
I definitely heard it. It was funny because when we were doing warm-ups, I would get off the bench and go over and everybody would be like, "Low," and I was like, "Oh my God, my people, thank you." So it was great. I did definitely get chills when I heard that coming on.
I'm beaming for her.
I know. I mean, we were so excited. I think we were cheering. We were just like, get her in. Everybody, the whole country's cheering for her. And that's what you want. That's why she's been brought into this team, what she can bring with her experience. It also gives a nod to those other players that think they've aged out of this situation, that there's always still a chance for you. How you perform, like Emma Hayes said, we are watching how you're playing when you're playing in your leagues. I will add one more thing. I do not think Phallon Tullis-Joyce starts, although I don't. I think it might be Mandy McGlynn. Okay. I think it might be McGlynn. So okay. I know we just got in a whole conversation about how she should start, but see, because I'm a woman of two minds right now. You got to feel the situation. Do you start her? You can sub a goalkeeper, by the way, everybody. It does happen.
Yeah.
So it is okay to sub goalkeepers. Do you start Phallon, and then do you bring Mandy in second half? Do you bring Claudia in second half? It's okay to sub a goalkeeper when you're playing a friendly. It's okay.
No, that's a good shout. I'm thinking because it's two minds, right? It's they're all so inexperienced. The only thing you can do is get them minutes and get them experience. But at the same time, we're still unsure.
Well, yeah. And I think that's what goes back to what we talked about, McCall. It's just you need Phallon to get played in more with that back four and the midfield and the defensive midfield. But at the same time, what you don't want to run into is the problem that we've run into US a lot of times, where you have a goalkeeper that has 110 caps and your next goalkeeper has 10 and something happens.
Yeah, how did we get here? We knew that Alyssa couldn't play forever. Where was our
we got here exactly. Exactly. And this has happened time and time again with the U.S. national team. Emma is changing that a little bit, but there's got to be kind of a balance here. You can't go all in where all the goalkeepers are just getting games. But listen, I played in 35 games capped. I was rostered for well over 100 games. So it's what if something...
Total flex.
Yeah. but it's a lot of bench time. I had my routine, but that we have to
You
get
have that game day routine, that on that roster, that, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely. But you
Yeah.
have there's an ebb and flow to this. Do I think Phallon starts? I don't. And if she does, it's because Emma's looking at her to take the reins and saying, all right, she was nervous. She had a little iffy moments in that first game. So let's let her get another game under her belt. That would be why she starts.
I'm anxious to see that decision.
Me too.
I'm glad that I could get back in here just so I could say, guys, it's been real.
Absolutely.
We can wrap. But I have like the utmost, coolest, amazingest, most wonderful announcement that we have to make here. CBS Sports announces exclusive multi-year rights agreement with UEFA Champions League to stream on Paramount Plus beginning 2025. That means we're getting the ladies, y'all, officially.
Woo!
Yeah. So now Paramount Plus is now home to all UEFA club competitions through 2030. Lock it up, baby.
The champion.
That's amazing. Let's go.
Yeah, no, this is outstanding. Thank you both for jumping in for this all cap recap, all-star edition. We will be back with more Attacking Third on Monday, as usual, at our usual time slot, 4:30 Eastern time. That's not our usual time slot. I'm just kidding. 4:30 p.m. on Monday. And thank you all for joining us, chat. You are wonderful. Stay tuned for more, and be sure to tune in for Champions League when we get that, because that's going to be a party. From all of us here, Christine Cupo, producer Mark, McCall Zerboni, and Saskia Webber, it has been a wonderful episode of Attacking Third. Have a great rest of your weekend.